It's my great pleasure to introduce our very distinguished speaker this evening, Gori Daniel. And if you don't mind me just reading a little bit about his profile. Gori is a partner at Adams & Moore, which is a top UK accountancy and professional advisory firm, and he graduated from Brunel University with a degree in business economics, and he also holds a master's degree in management science and operational science from the Warwick Business School. I don't know if we were at Warwick at the same time, but that's a very fine business school that you graduated from. And he's currently still a student. He's completing a PhD in international business and strategy at Loughborough University, and he's driven up today from a meeting at Loughborough with his academic advisors, and we're very grateful to you for making the journey up here. Gori is widely regarded as an enterprise champion, and is already the author of a published book called Rise Above the Horizon of Average. He specializes in business transformation and leads the business advisory practice of his firm with clients across the private, public, and voluntary sector. His previous career journey included a wealth of experience at Transport for London and at IBM. He also serves as the Chief Inspiration Officer at Emerging Leaders Academy and is the International Development Director for the World Changes Foundations. And through both of these roles, he lives out his passion for changing the world by supporting the development of the next generation of leaders. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a very warm Liverpool welcome to our distinguished speaker this evening, Gori Daniel.
Well, I am lost for words. Joseph, I think I need a flicker. Good evening, everyone. I don't think I've ever been introduced like that, Edward, so let's just thank Edward for making it very difficult for me to find words to speak. Okay, all right. We don't have a great deal of time, so I'm just going to jump into what I'm here to do. Firstly, I've got to say that I've been blown away by just listening to you guys and the wealth of passion, the well of passion that seems to be in this room. One of the things that really, really gets me, they say one of the ways of really finding out what you really care about is really what annoys you and what upsets you. One of the things that upsets me is having people with so much unfulfilled potential distracted by what other people believe to be impossible. Have we ever examined what that word actually means, impossible? I think it means I can't do it, so if I can't do it, you absolutely can't do it. I think it was Nelson Mandela that said, it always seems impossible until it's done. And one of the things that I've discovered is that, what makes it possible for someone who used to sleep rough to have the dream of not only completing his education, but doing it in a completely different country, and then, being the best student, not only at that university, but the British computers is basically a sense that, look, I can do this. I was made for more. Just also reflecting on what, Edward said as well. The NHS is where it is today because people like Abdul decides that I'm going to give my life to ensuring that other people can have theirs. That's pretty remarkable. And that is at the core of what I'm going to talk about today. But first of all, who knows who that is? I'm hearing rumblings. Who's that? Muhammad Ali. Who's on the floor? Could be, not Joe Frazier. Sonny Liston, and that fight was in 1974, so I understand why most of you probably wouldn't know who that was. It's amazing. Because if I tell you who Sonny Liston was until he lost to Muhammad Ali, you would realize why they call Muhammad Ali the greatest. You see, I have a picture of this in my office. I have a picture of it in my study at home. Because every time I come across something that seems impossible, I remember the story. Now, as it happens, Sonny Liston was the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world at this time. And Cassius Clay, as was his name, was just an up-and-coming whippersnapper. Really, they were predicting that he would be annihilated in the first round. You know, one of the commentators said that, look, they wouldn't even want to walk on the same street as Sonny Liston, not to talk of getting in the ring with him. And Muhammad Ali, who was, you know, the underdog, ranked underdog for this fight, came in with, you know, a level of self-confidence that no one had ever seen. You know, he made it famous for people like, you know, Mayweather to do what he does today, where the fight is concluded even before you enter into the ring. Quickly, let me tell you his strategy. This is my analysis, by the way. You won't find it anywhere else. Because the reality was that they were right. All the commentators were right. He was outgunned by Sonny Liston. He was bigger, he was stronger, he was 10 years older, which, you know, at that time wasn't seen as a disadvantage. You know, Cassius Clay was smaller, a lot more inexperienced. But you know what Cassius did? He didn't focus on what he didn't have. He didn't focus on the fact that he didn't have the strength. He focused on the fact that he was faster and he wouldn't get hit. You know, something that Mayweather does as well. He wore out his opponent, and then when his opponent was worn out, angry because he had held all sorts of abuse, beating him down mentally, he then went in for the kill. And then this is where he uttered the word, "I shook up the world. I shook up the world." Sometimes we lose because we follow rules that weren't meant for us. Rules that were meant for those who win. Those who rise above the horizon of average essentially play by their own rules. They study. Their strength doesn't necessarily come from physical might or what other people think is strength. They look inwards, they figure out what makes them tick, and then they hone that until they're successful. You know, I want to talk about success today. But my first question, really, is what would your life accomplish? How many people realize that, you know, Muhammad Ali was bigger outside of the ring than he was in the ring? He stood for something, didn't he? And a lot of his whys was essentially standing as a figure for human rights and social consciousness. His why wasn't just about being the one in the ring that hits and beats everyone else. There was something more. And so when we talk about success, I think the sort of conversations that we're having in this room is the sort of conversations that I really, really enjoy and thrive, because it makes me understand that you will achieve what you're setting out to do. Because let me tell you something. You know, I've been thinking about these three words: survival, success, significance. All three starts with S, and all three essentially are categories of everyone, 100% of the people who live on this earth. They're either pursuing survival, success, or significance. You know, there's no academic backing for what I'm about to say, but I think it takes the same effort to pursue survival that it does to pursue success, that it does to pursue significance. I'm not talking about physical effort, I'm talking about mental. Motivating yourself to get up, to figure out this is what I'm going to do. Survival is about essentially being able to pay your bills, being able to do enough just to get through university. Success is getting out ahead, doing that little bit more, but mentally deciding that, look, I think I was made for a little bit more than just getting by. But beyond success is something else, something that I want to challenge each and every one of you to pursue, and that is significance. You know, our country is in a bit of a crossroad at the moment, a crossroad that I think can unleash us to new opportunities. And yes, I'm talking about Brexit. You know, I was one of those who voted to remain, and the reason why I did that is, as an economist, I thought that made sense, right? I think it made sense to be part of a wider community rather than to go alone. But I didn't vote remain because I felt we couldn't go it alone. We must never forget that the United Kingdom, I think, is the greatest country in the world. We must never forget our history, how this small island nation essentially built a commonwealth. We might not do it the same way we did it before, but we have those relationships. The Queen has kept those relationships over decades and years. But what I'm saying is that it will take the imagination of people in this room to begin to think about how our country will be going forward. I want to challenge us to dispense with survival. You know, survival, you know, if you do what you need to do, you will survive in the United Kingdom, in Europe. Success takes a little bit more physical effort, but I'm saying it takes the same mental effort, which is basically a decision to do whatever it takes to be successful. But I want to talk not about success, but about significance. And let me show another picture, actually. Does anyone remember where this image came from? Any athletes or athletics fans in the room? Pardon? Correct, yes, this was the World Athletics. And what happened here? The biggest upset in athletics history, right? You know, where Gatling beat Bolt, right? Can you remember that? Can you also remember what happened the next morning, the next day? Who was in the papers? Who won? Who was successful? Who was significant? But why? But why? Can you see that there's a subtle difference? You know, Gatling, I think he has over his head the fact that he's considered by many to be a cheat. Sometimes when we pursue success, sometimes, especially when you listen to people like me, you do it at all cost. You basically, you know, you burn bridges, you have an a relentless focus. And sometimes that focus crowds out the things that are actually meaningful, the things that are actually important. Significance is success with rules. Rules that mean that you abide by things that uplift the human condition, things that bring, you know, that bring benefits to people other than yourself. I think the pursuit of success is hard. I really, 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 really do. You know, I just came back last week from Gaborone. It's taking me a while to pronounce that name. It's the capital of Botswana. And I was working with a room like this, a room full of people who you know, came in to learn about perhaps how they could achieve their goals. Now, Botswana is a middle-income country in Africa, and its aspiration is to become a high-income country by 2036. And there were like 70 senior public sector officials in that room. And you know, when I asked how many of them believed in it, about a half a hand went up. And the reason why it's difficult to believe in is Botswana's primary source of income is diamonds, which is fantastic, but the commodity prices now are a little bit lower. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to make this an economics class. The point is, the challenge that they were having was one of belief, and that belief was reinforced by circumstances and situations that they found to be overwhelming. And the challenge that I gave them then is the same challenge that I give you now. You have to be clear that what you're pushing for is bigger than you, and that's what's going to allow you to push forward. Is it possible for Botswana to become a high-income country in the next 19 years? I think so. But I won't tell you about why I think Botswana can. Let me talk to you about why I think you can. You know, I've already mentioned it. It's the same energy, mental and physical. Mental, perhaps, that you need to pursue success is what you need to pursue significance. Let me try and illustrate through Clarissa's story. Clarissa had a very who knows who Clarissa Shields is? She's the only American to win Olympic gold twice. But her story, heavyweight gold actually, her story actually started years ago. She's from one of the poorest cities in America, Flint. Highest rate of violence, of everything that is negative. In fact, by the time she was 5 years old, her father went away to prison, and she spent the most of her childhood in and out of homes. Her mother, just to keep things going, had a string of relationships, and about 2 of the men in her life actually sexually violated her. Boxing was her way out. And if you hear her story, what I found remarkable about her story is that even from a young age, she was fighting not just for herself, she was fighting for her younger brothers and sisters, and now she fights for her town. What makes her get up to go to the gym, what makes her fight, is not just because of Clarissa. It's really because of what her success brings to her city and to her town. You know, she talks about how she felt that by winning Olympic gold, that her life would change the first time around. And it did, for all of 5 minutes. You know, she had a couple of interviews when she got back, but then, you know, people stopped calling after about weeks and months that she got back. And she had what you and I normally have when we have a situation where we have worked so hard, we've had some measure of success, and we think, you know, this should be it. She realized that winning 1 goal was not significant because someone else has done that she had to go and do something else. And that's why she sacrificed all she did. She put off a professional career just to make sure that she could achieve what no one else has achieved. And now her life is beginning to change. She's now a professional, she's now the first female heavyweight champion, 2-time Olympic gold. So for Clarissa, success means being the first, despite the background that she had. But success is not really about what it means for other people. Success is about what it means to you. What does success mean to you? What does it mean? Does it mean money? Enough money to buy all that you want? Or, you know, like a lady said, they're leaving a legacy that outlives you. You know, being able to offer people the chance at life. I don't know. But I know some other people that I'm really inspired by. Everyone knows Malala, right? Do you know her story? Do you know how she started? You know how her advocacy was not just for her to have an education, but for everyone in Pakistan, particularly girls. And she endured an attempt on her life to be able to do that. You know, I've been fascinated by Elon Musk because, like Abdul, his focus is recognizing that as a civilization, the human race, we need to prepare for the existential threat of the world essentially coming to an apocalyptic end. And this one idea, this one need, has made him a billionaire. Because a lot of times when we're having these conversations, people think that, you know, these big dreams and these big visions essentially mean that, you know, you have to, you know, join the Red Cross or something like that. But here's an example of an entrepreneur that is making a business out of something that actually impacts the whole world. These are real world changes. The third person, there's someone that we might not really know in this room, is Dr. Stella Adadavo. She is credited as being the person that actually stopped the spread of Ebola in Nigeria. And that is significant, actually. You know, one of the things that Nigerians and everyone else knows is Nigerians are everywhere. They're some of the most traveled peoples in the world. So think about an Ebola outbreak in Nigeria. That would basically mean the whole planet will have a visit. You know, that's catastrophic. But what she did is she put herself in harm's way. She decided to not buckle under pressure from the Liberian ambassador to release the index candidate. And through you know, personal integrity and commitment to the public good, she ensured that, you know, that disease was contained. You know, my challenge to you today is really to be the kind of people who pursue significance. Because whether you pursue success or whether you pursue significance, it's going to take a lot of hard work. It really, really would be. It really will take all that you have and more. And at some point, you will want to give up. At some point, you would have given everything you possibly could. At some point, you would be under so much pressure to give in. What's going to keep you going is that why that we've been defining today. What's going to keep you going is that contribution that you want to make with your life, what you want to accomplish with your life. And assuming that you've already made that decision, that you will give your one and only life to something that is really, really amazing. And I know why we don't do it. I think it's really, really scary. I was hearing what, you know, the introduction, and I was cringing because I'm not, you know, the kind of person who would want to have, you know, that said about me. You know, I think it was Nelson Mandela said that no one benefits from you cringing. You know, you don't. But when you shine, you let other people shine as well. You give other people permission to let their light shine. I believe strongly that each and every one of us has a seed of greatness inside of us. That seed of greatness needs to be fanned. It needs to be developed for it to manifest. And I think there are three things you've got to think about in order to do that. One, time. What do you do with your time? How are you investing your time? Is it binge watching Suits, like I do sometimes? Or is it really thinking about those hard questions? Really preparing yourself for the right opportunity to come through. Really, just putting in the time, the effort to actually achieve what you're committed to achieve. A lot of our dreams are huge dreams. And I think if your dream doesn't scare you, it's because it's not big enough. A friend of mine was really angry over the Brexit vote. He leads a community of tech entrepreneurs across the US, UK, a founders group. And I was saying to him, stop whinging about this stuff and do something about it. And on Monday, he led a team to France, Paris, to meet with the French president and his cabinet to talk about building a collaboration between Paris and London, irrespective of what happens in the Brexit negotiations. This is one guy, one idea that could potentially be world-changing. If your dream does not scare you, it's not big enough. But it's not enough to have a big dream. You've got to do something about it. And what you do with your time gives me a sense of whether or not it's a pipe dream or is a vision waiting to happen. The second thing is tribe. Who do you hang around? Do you hang around other people who believe that, who are crazy enough to believe that they can change the world? Or do you hang around people who tell you how crazy you are, right, for believing you can change the world? I'd rather hang around other crazy people, right? People who are doing something that really, really challenges me to do more than I'm doing. The third is treasure. And that really has to do with, all of us need, some of us, not all of us, right? Some of us need to make a living. But the question is, what do you do with your money? What do you do with your talents? Do you get into debt in such a way that basically you limit your options in terms of what you can do because I owe, so off to work I go? Or do you live under your means in such a way that gives you freedom? What do you do with your time? What do you do with what tribe are you part of? What group of people do you spend time with? And what do you do with the resources that you have to give you options, to give you freedom, to actually dream dreams and make them come true? Another set of 3 things that I think I need to leave you with is the importance of faith, friends. You can see a theme here. I've said tribe, now I call it friends. It's just because who you hang around is so critical to whatever you achieve. And the third thing is favor. This is another photograph from the recent World Athletics meet that happened in London at the Olympic Park. What's the interesting story here? Does anyone remember? Bolt had a hamstring injury. So, this is significant because even a significantly weakened Bolt, right, would have meant that Jamaica would have won this race, right? Do we agree on that? Oh, no. Oh, we're being patriotic, right? They would have. You don't touch the Jamaicans, right, on this stuff. But, we don't care about that. We have relay gold. And the reason why we do, Britain has relay, the reason why we do is that the lads were ready. People say, luck has something to do with success, but I think luck is really opportunity meets preparation. If they weren't prepared, if they were not prepared, that would not happen. It would probably be the US. I think a lot of the reasons why we don't put in the time to prepare is we don't actually believe it's possible. And that's why faith is critical. If you do not believe in what you're doing, you're not going to sacrifice. You're not going to put in the time. You're not going to put in the effort. You're not going to do what you need to do. So faith is critical. You must believe that what you're working towards is not only possible, it's going to happen. And that's one of the reasons why I say to myself, and I commend the same to you, is that the only thing between you and greatness is time. The only thing between you and greatness is time. It's a done deal. You will manifest the greatness that's inside of you. That's what I say to myself. I'm just extending it to you. Friends, you know, if you're preparing yourself, you've got to hang around people who are preparing too. People who are putting in the effort, people who are challenging themselves, people who have faith enough to believe that what they're trying to achieve is not only possible, but it's going to happen. And when it does, when the opportunity arises, they need to be ready, they need to be prepared. And yes, a little bit of luck is there as well. You know, and this is what happened, I think, to us. Because no one could have engineered the hamstring injury. No one could have engineered that, right? That was just fortune. But if you have the opportunity, you're not prepared, you're not with the right people, it won't happen. Perhaps the final thing that I say, and this time not 3 but 4 things. You know, a lot of people who are pursuing success, particularly at your stage, really focus on building their CV. I would urge you to build what I call a 3 CV. I'd say work on your character. I'd say work on competence, chemistry, and build a vision that is greater than yourself. I'm going to go over that once, very, very quickly. Character is who you are when no one's looking. What are the deep values that defy who you are? What are your red lines in terms of principles you will not cross? Who are you? What do you stand for? What do you believe? That takes effort. It must be intentional. Competence you get. You know, skills. Develop the range of skills that will make whatever you're trying to achieve possible. Get the grades that you need. You know, get the mastery of the subject that you require. Chemistry is something that we don't work a great deal on. How you treat people and how people feel around you is critical. Relational intelligence, in many ways, there's more of a premium on that than natural intelligence or intellect. Just the ability to get on with people, the ability for people to like you. You know, people hardly select or employ people that they don't think they can get on with. And so you've got to invest a great deal of time in developing relational skills. You know, all 3 are important, but perhaps the most important is vision. How do you see yourself and what you believe to be possible? You know, my dad was an orphan by the time he was 8 years old. And his life got transformed because of education. And he instilled that in me. My grandmother was a maid. She didn't have the opportunity to get an education. But she raised her 3 children and priming them the importance of focusing and getting an education and going further than she did. I'm here because of the sacrifices that they made. My story is not Joseph's story. I wasn't on the street. And that's really because other people pay that price. I don't know what your story is. But I believe that you're made for more. And what you need to do is take the opportunities that you have perhaps through the sacrifices of others, and make a commitment to leave this world a better place than you met it. Thank you.